I can still feel the heat of his hand on my thigh that night, a warmth that should never have been there. The music in that bar was low and slow, the kind that makes time move differently. I remember the dim golden lights, the smell of whiskey and perfume, and the way my heart pounded as Ethan leaned in close enough for his breath to touch my neck. I told myself to leave. I told myself to remember my vows, my children sleeping at home, and the man who had promised to love me forever. But temptation did not care about promises. It whispered softly in my ear, telling me I deserved to feel alive again. Ethan's lips brushed against mine, soft, forbidden, electric. For a second, my world spun out of control. I felt wanted, seen, craved, something I had not felt in years. That moment, that kiss, was the beginning of everything that would later destroy me. Before we go deeper, I just want to take a moment to thank all our amazing viewers and subscribers. Your support means everything. To our new and returning viewers who have not yet subscribed, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It is the fuel that keeps this channel alive. Now, as we continue, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments after this hook. This one is personal. This one is raw. Let us talk about it. My name is Emma Carter, and I live in a quiet neighborhood in Georgia with my husband, Michael, and our 2 children. On the outside, my life looked picture perfect: a big white house, a manicured lawn, a loving husband, and a steady job as a high school guidance counselor. But perfection is a mask that cracks when no one is looking. Michael was everything a woman was supposed to want: loyal, hardworking, gentle. But after 12 years of marriage, he had become distant. Our conversations had turned into logistics, bills, chores, schedules. The man who once held my face in his hands like I was fragile glass barely looked at me anymore. I used to blame him for that. I told myself he had changed, that he had stopped trying. What I did not realize was that I had stopped trying too. It started innocently. Ethan was Michael's coworker, a tall, charming man with an easy smile and the kind of confidence that fills a room. I met him at a company dinner. I remember the way he looked at me across the table, like I was the only person there. He made me laugh, asked questions about my life, remembered small details I mentioned in passing. It felt harmless at first, just attention. But attention can be intoxicating when your soul is starving for it. Soon, he began texting me during the day. Little things. You looked beautiful last night. I bet Michael doesn't realize how lucky he is. I knew I should have stopped replying, but I did not. His messages became my escape, my guilty thrill. Every vibration of my phone made my heart race. Every compliment made me forget how wrong it was. That night in the bar was supposed to be a simple after-work drink. Michael was working late, and Ethan asked if I wanted to join him to unwind. I told myself it was friendly. It was not. I wore a red dress I had not touched in years. It hugged my body in a way that made me feel alive again. I remember the way Ethan's eyes lingered when I walked in. We talked for hours. About dreams, regrets, marriages that had grown quiet. The more he talked, the more I felt seen. His words wrapped around me like a song I did not want to end. When he reached out and brushed a strand of hair from my face, I froze. The air between us thickened. I knew what was about to happen, and still, I did not stop him. The first kiss was gentle. The second was desperate. The third was a surrender. We ended up in his car, parked behind the bar where the streetlights could not find us. Every sound, every breath, every heartbeat felt dangerous. I do not know how long it lasted, only that it ended with silence, the kind that screams louder than any word. When I got home that night, I could not look at myself in the mirror. My dress still smelled like his cologne. My lips still felt bruised from the kiss I should never have given. Michael was already in bed, the soft glow of his phone lighting his face. He smiled when he saw me. "You are home late. Everything all right?" I nodded, forcing a smile that felt like it would split me in half. "Yes. Just stayed late at work." He kissed my forehead and turned off the light. I lay beside him, wide awake, listening to the sound of his breathing. Every inhale was a reminder of what I had just done. Every exhale felt like it carried my guilt away, but it did not. It stayed, heavy and alive, pressing against my chest until tears spilled silently onto my pillow. The following morning, I could not even meet my own reflection. I felt dirty, like I had dragged mud into the sacred space of my marriage. I promised myself it would never happen again. I would forget Ethan. I would bury that night deep enough that it could never surface. But secrets are not buried. They breathe. They whisper. When Ethan texted me later that day, "I cannot stop thinking about you," I should have blocked him. Instead, I typed back, "Me neither." That was the moment the line I crossed became a road I started walking down. Over the next few weeks, guilt became a second skin. I smiled through family dinners, kissed my kids goodnight, and laughed at Michael's small jokes, all while replaying moments with Ethan in my mind like a film I could not turn off. I told myself it was harmless, that I could manage it. But sin has a way of growing when you feed it silence. Michael began to notice my distance. "You are quieter lately," he said one night, eyes soft with concern. "Is everything all right?" I wanted to fall into his arms and confess everything. I wanted to beg him to forgive me before he even knew what I had done. But fear chained my tongue. I just smiled and said, "I am fine." Looking back now, I realized that night in the bar did not just break a promise. It broke something inside me, something that used to be pure and steady. And the cruelest part? Ethan did not feel guilty. He would smile and say, "You deserve this." But I did not. I had chosen wrong. And though I did not know it yet, that choice was about to cost me everything. Guilt is not loud. It does not shout or rage. It whispers. It breathes in the quiet moments when no one else can hear it. For me, guilt became a rhythm, steady, suffocating, and always there. Every morning, I woke beside Michael and told myself to forget. I told myself that I could fix things if I just tried harder. I cooked his favorite meals, I smiled at him more, I even started leaving small notes in his lunch bag like I used to. But no matter how much effort I made, the lie lived beneath my skin. Michael noticed the difference. "You are being sweet lately," he said one evening as he kissed my cheek. His eyes held warmth, but also confusion, as if he could sense that something was off but could not name it. His kindness was torture. Every time he touched me, I felt like I was stealing from him. Every word of love from his lips only reminded me of the betrayal he did not know existed. Ethan's messages did not stop. If anything, they grew bolder. He wanted to see me again. He missed me. He said he could not sleep without thinking about that night. I tried to pull away. I tried to be strong. But the truth is, I liked feeling wanted. I liked feeling desired in a way I had not felt in years. It was wrong, but my loneliness was louder than my conscience. The second time it happened, I did not even fight it. We met at a small hotel on the edge of town. I remember standing in front of the mirror, staring at the woman in the reflection, dressed beautifully, lips painted red, but eyes hollow. I remember whispering to myself, "This will be the last time." But lies do not just come from words. They come from decisions. That day was filled with the same dangerous heat as the first time, passion wrapped in shame, desire coated with guilt. When it was over, Ethan held me close and said, "You do not have to feel bad. You deserve to be happy." Those words burned through me. Happiness built on betrayal is not happiness. It is poison with perfume. At home, Michael was in the kitchen helping our daughter with her homework. When I walked in, she ran up to me and hugged me tightly. "Mommy, you smell pretty," she said with an innocent smile. Her words cut me like glass. I hugged her back, forcing myself not to cry. Michael looked up and smiled. "Rough day?" "Yes," I said softly. "Just tired." He walked over and kissed my forehead. "Then rest. I will finish up dinner." And I did. I went upstairs, locked the bathroom door, and broke down. I sat on the floor and cried until I could not breathe. The more I tried to wash the guilt away, the more it clung to me. Days turned into weeks. Every text from Ethan filled me with both longing and disgust. I began to realize that what we had was not love. It was addiction, a desperate attempt to fill a void I had created myself. The more I tried to stop, the more I failed. Ethan started becoming possessive. "You cannot just ignore me," he wrote one day. "Do you want me to come to your house and remind your husband what kind of woman he married?" That message froze me. For the first time, I saw him clearly, not as the charming man who made me feel alive, but as someone who held my sin like a weapon. I blocked his number that night, terrified of what he might do. But I knew it was too late. I had given him access to a part of my life that no one else should have touched. The distance between Michael and me grew heavier. I could feel him watching me sometimes, quietly, curiously, as if trying to figure out what had changed. One night, while we were watching television, he reached for my hand. "Emma," he said gently, "are you happy with me?" My chest tightened. "Of course I am," I whispered. He looked at me for a long time. "Then why do I feel like I am losing you?" I wanted to scream the truth. I wanted to tell him everything, to rip off the mask and finally breathe. But instead, I smiled. "You are not losing me, Michael. I promise." That lie, that single lie, would soon destroy the life I was trying to protect. The day it all came crashing down was ordinary at first. It was a Friday evening. Michael was supposed to be working late. I was in the kitchen making dinner when my phone buzzed. It was a new number, but I knew who it was. "Ethan." He wrote, "You think you can erase me? You cannot block what we had. I miss you, Emma." I deleted the message immediately, my hands shaking. Then another came in, "Your husband deserves to know what kind of woman he is living with." I panicked. I blocked the number again. My heart was pounding so hard that I could barely breathe. Then I heard a sound behind me. I turned, and there he was. Michael. Standing in the doorway. His eyes were fixed on my phone. I froze. "Who was that?" he asked quietly. His voice was calm, but it carried something sharper than anger. It carried truth, the kind that cuts through pretense. My lips parted, but no words came out. He walked toward me, took the phone gently from my hand, and scrolled. The silence between us felt like a scream. Then he stopped. He looked at the screen, then at me. "Ethan," he said, his voice breaking. "Ethan from work?" I could not move. My heart collapsed inside me. "Tell me I am wrong," he whispered. But I could not. Tears spilled down my face. My body trembled. "I am sorry," I choked out. "I am so sorry, Michael." He stared at me for a long time, his face pale, his jaw trembling, his eyes wet with disbelief. Then he set the phone on the counter and stepped back. "I do not even know who you are anymore," he said softly. And then he walked away. That night, I sat on the floor of our bedroom, surrounded by silence that felt heavier than death. I heard the front door open, then close. I did not chase him. I could not. I had built a world of lies, and it had finally crumbled. I wanted to scream, to claw my way out of my own body, to erase every moment that led to this. But pain does not erase sin. It exposes it. As the night stretched on, I realized something. I had betrayed a man who had done nothing but love me. I had broken the heart that had once protected mine. The next morning, his side of the bed was empty. His clothes were gone. He had left a note on the dresser. It said only 6 words. "I need time. Please do not call." I sat there staring at it for hours, the tears never stopping. For the first time, I understood what it felt like to destroy something that could never be fully repaired. And yet, somewhere in that pain, I knew this was not the end. Because sometimes, when everything falls apart, that is when the hardest kind of love begins, the one that demands forgiveness. The house was too quiet. Too clean. Too empty. It was like the air itself had stopped moving after Michael left. For days, I wandered from room to room as if searching for him in the walls, in the smell of his cologne, in the faint echo of his laughter. Everywhere I turned, I saw reminders of what I had broken, the family photos on the mantel, the coffee mug that still had his initials on it, the dent in the couch where he used to sit every morning reading the news. I wanted to pick up the phone and call him, but his note said not to. So I obeyed, for the first time in a long time. And then came the silence, the kind that does not comfort but condemns. The days that followed were unbearable. I still went to work, but I was a ghost moving through routine. At night, I cried until my throat burned. I stopped eating, stopped talking to friends, stopped pretending that everything was fine. Our kids were staying with Michael's sister for a while. He had made sure they were kept away from the storm. That broke me the most, the fact that even in his pain, he still protected them from mine. One evening, I walked into the bathroom, looked at my reflection, and finally said the words I had been too afraid to speak out loud. You did this. That was the first step towards something I did not yet understand, redemption. I started therapy 2 weeks later. Sitting in that office, surrounded by books and tissues, I spoke words I had buried deep inside. I told my therapist about the loneliness, the affair, the guilt, the shame, and the way I had lost myself long before I ever betrayed Michael. She listened quietly, then said something that stayed with me. Forgiveness does not start with the person you hurt. It starts with the person who sinned. That line cut me open in a way nothing else had. I realized that I had hated myself so deeply that I did not believe I was worthy of forgiveness, from Michael, from God, or from myself. But healing demanded that I stop running from my own reflection. Weeks turned into months. I began writing letters, one to Michael, one to myself, and one to God. In the one for Michael, I wrote everything. Every detail, every emotion, every regret. I told him I did not expect forgiveness, that I did not even deserve it, but that I would spend the rest of my life proving that I could be better. I never sent it. The letter to myself was harder. I wrote about the woman I used to be, the woman I became, and the woman I wanted to become. It was not about self-pity. It was about ownership. And the letter to God, that one was soaked in tears. I begged for mercy, for peace, for another chance to do right by the man who had loved me so faithfully. Then one afternoon, 3 months after he left, Michael came back. I was sitting on the porch, reading, when I heard his car pull up. My heart froze. He stepped out slowly, wearing a gray jacket and that same quiet strength that had always made me feel safe. We stood there for a moment, neither of us speaking. He looked thinner, older somehow. Pain had shaped him. Finally, he said, "Can we talk?" I nodded, my hands trembling. We sat in the living room, the same place where laughter once lived, now filled with unspoken words. "I am not here to fight," he said quietly. "I just needed to see if you are all right." His kindness broke me. I started crying before I could even speak. "I do not deserve your concern," I whispered. He shook his head. "You do not get to decide what you deserve." "I do." I told him everything that had happened since he left, the therapy, the letters, the nights I spent praying. He listened silently, his expression unreadable. When I finished, there was a long pause. Then he asked, "Why him, Emma? What did he give you that I did not?" That question had haunted me for months. And for the first time, I answered honestly. "He made me feel seen," I said softly. "But what I did not realize was that I stopped letting you see me long before that. I stopped opening up, stopped trying. I wanted to be wanted without doing the work to be lovable. It was selfish. It was cruel." He nodded slowly, his eyes glistening. "I was not perfect either," he said. "I got comfortable. I stopped showing you affection the way I should have. But I never stopped loving you, Emma. Not for a single day. My breath caught in my chest. Then why are you here? He looked at me for a long time. Then he said the words that still echo in my heart. Because love does not disappear when it is betrayed. It hurts, it bleeds, it changes, but sometimes, it chooses to stay. He stayed that night, not as my husband, but as a man trying to understand if his heart could heal beside mine. We talked for hours. No shouting. No accusations. Just truth. Raw and trembling. He told me about the nights he could not sleep, the questions that haunted him, the humiliation of knowing that another man had touched what was sacred to him. And I listened. Every word was a punishment I knew I deserved. But somewhere in that pain, something shifted. The honesty between us, the brutal, tear-stained truth, began to rebuild something that the affair had destroyed. Not trust. Not yet. But hope. Over the next few weeks, we met often. Dinners. Walks. Counseling sessions. He never promised to come back. He only promised to try. That was enough. One evening, as we sat watching the sunset from our porch, he reached for my hand. His thumb brushed across my fingers, hesitant at first. Then firm. I am choosing to forgive you, he said. Not because you earned it. But because I cannot keep living with hate in my heart. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, I do not deserve you. He smiled faintly. Maybe not. But love is not about deserving. It is about deciding. And I am deciding to choose you again. That night, for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. Forgiveness did not erase what I had done. It did not rewrite the past. But it gave me something I thought I would never have again, a chance to begin anew. Our marriage is not perfect. It never will be. But it is honest now. And honesty, I have learned, is stronger than perfection. When people ask me how we survived, I tell them this. I chose wrong once, but he chose me again. And that choice saved my soul.